You sometimes feel like you're operating your business in a place of scarcity and maybe it feels like there's not enough to go around. Today, I'm interviewing Rosie the Realtor, one of my favorite humans in the Twin Cities. And guess what? We work at different brokerages. And guess what? We're still friends. And guess what? There's still enough business to go around. We're going to talk about all the things. Let's dive in.
You're listening to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast, where we invite you to check your ego at the app, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into all things real estate marketing, social media, friendship, hardship, love, money mindset, and all the things that celebrate you as a badass boss babe.
We're here to encourage you, show up for you, give you a loving kick in the pants when you need it most, and be your soft place to land on the hardest of days. So pull up a seat at our table and get ready to be inspired and start living your best life by design.
Welcome to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast. We are so excited you're here.
Okay, girls, let's dive in. All right, Bus Bench Babes, today we have a fun episode. I have the pleasure of interviewing Rosie Choromanski. She is an agent with RE/MAX Results. And if you're in the Twin Cities area, you probably know her as Rosie the Realtor on social media. So welcome. Well, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super humbled to be on your podcast today.
This is super exciting. Well, so you and I met on Instagram.
We did.
And the whole reason I wanted to have you on the show is I wanted to talk about how we're essentially competitors with one another. We're at different brokerages. We're all going after the same amount of business here in the Twin Cities. And yet we became friends. We became friends through social media. And so that's why I wanted to have a conversation with you today about like how this can happen, how we can like build each other up and like build a longer table for us to all like have a seat at the table. And I just want to have a fun conversation with you today. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. When you are not selling real estate, what are you doing? What do you love to do? Give us a little backstory.
Well, I am the youngest of 4 siblings. I am an auntie of 6. When I'm not selling real estate, I like to stay pretty active. I stay pretty active with my village and good friends. I love finding new restaurants, going on walks, finding a dive bar with, the little solo acoustic musician, but stay pretty busy and pretty active.
I love that. I loved following it was an Italy journey last year, right?
I did. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, with you and your gal pals gallivanting around Italy, like drinking all the wine and having all the fun. I'm like, yes, this looks amazing. And I wish I had gotten an invite.
Next time, for sure.
It looked awesome. Well, so like I said, our relationship is a perfect example of like networking and community and how we can build a longer table. So I've been in the business for 26 years and I've seen it all, like just, all these different walks of life. And it's so shocking to me how many people burn bridges in this industry. And when a multiple offer situation comes up and all of a sudden you see that person's name on the other side of the offer, it's like, do I want to work with this person? Mm-hmm. No, because they were so rude or so this or so that. And so I'm like, that's why I wanted to have this conversation. It's like, how can we do this better? And I think you and I are a perfect example of like how that can be done better. And I feel like the old school way of selling real estate was like, my information is super proprietary and I have the secret sauce and you can't have my secret sauce. And I feel like that's changing. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. I could even go back to our few lunches that we've had in person.
Yeah.
And like leaving there with these light bulb moments of even the way that you communicate the same information that I'm communicating, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Just shows like, that was amazing. Like I learned something. I took something from our lunch, not just like creative energy, but also just the way you communicate and deliver.
Well, I feel exactly the same way. That's why I love having like collaborative little get-togethers, and it's fun when you and I have like, yeah, we've had lunches, not even any cocktails or beverages involved. We need to do that in the summer and have some adult beverages. That would be even more fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're going to serve your audience a certain way. I serve my audience a certain way. And there's like no reason that we can't all be doing this. And there's plenty of business to go around.
For sure. And learning from each other.
Yeah.
I think is key.
I love that. You are like huge at building community. Like, I love this about your social media page. And I love that it's not just people in the industry. It's like you have like you said in your intro, like you have a village. How, like, why is that important to you? And like, how does that impact like life and maybe your business also?
Yeah. And then in reviewing these, like our points for the podcast, it was interesting kind of looking back at like, why is community important and building a positive community around you? And I would say that just kind of nurturing my past communities of even going to private school from kindergarten through 8th grade and looking back at how much business that has given me.
That's really
unintentionally cool. is pretty wonderful. Yeah. And very rewarding. Yeah. That in most cases, I haven't seen some of these families since 8th grade. And just because of social media, and I think knowing my heart and my family, like growing up, they felt comfortable is so humbling, but also it feels good, in the long run of just that little piece of community. But yeah, community is important. Probably, I would say like top 3 reasons in the growth of my business for sure.
I love that. I have a listing appointment tomorrow with a friend from 2nd grade.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I'm like, we were trying to think like when was the last time we saw each other, like the whites of our eyes? I think we took a class together in college at North Hennepin Community College. And I think that was probably the last time I saw her.
Yeah.
It was probably 25 years ago.
I love that.
And yeah. How cool is that to keep those relationships alive?
It might be the coolest part of our career. Yeah. That you can bring back like these past lives and help them with like a really important chapter of their life now.
That's really awesome. Have you always been like this? Like, were you wired like this? Was your family like this?
Yeah. And looking back or thinking back to this, even going back to college and like figuring out what I wanted to graduate, what degree. I have a sports management degree from St. Cloud State. And my ideal job out of college would have been to work for like a city or government setting, like setting up activities or sports for kids or for people. I think it was mainly for youth. And in that thought, I wanted to give back because I was a really busy kid. Was on a lot of sports activities in a pretty chaotic family setting. And I think even at like a late teenage, I realized how important those communities were for me as a kid. And I wanted to give back. So to answer your question, I think it's pretty organic that even at a young age, I realized how like special these leaders and coaches and teachers were for me in my life.
Well, and so you're not doing sports stuff, but you literally are still doing everything that you went to college for and set out to do.
Yeah, for sure.
You're just doing it with houses instead.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
For sure.
Well, let's talk about social media. Like, it can get such a bad rap and it can be such a negative place, but like yours and mine, that's terrible grammar. Our friendship is a perfect example of like something really awesome that can come from social media. Feeling like less than and scrolling, like there's just times where I just have to like get off the gram because I'm like, this is making me feel really bad about myself. But I love that you and I were able to like get off the gram and get in real life. And the first time you and I had lunch, I still remembered I walked in, I'm like, it felt like we've been friends for years.
For sure.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
How do you use social media as a tool? Like I feel like you're really good at it.
Well, thank you. I'd like to start with anyone that's like listening to the podcast that if social media is hard and you don't enjoy it, I don't think it's something that should be forced. I do enjoy sharing and I do in social media. And I think anyone that does follow me or us would know that there is a big piece of us being creative and wanting to share, what we're learning and we're living and learning and sharing about it. So I guess that's a piece that if social media is hard, I mean, there's so many pieces in life and in this business that, go where your passion lies. So I do enjoy social media. And I guess in thinking about, this topic, I think you get what you give. And I follow a lot of positive people and block or not follow people that don't fill my cup.
Yeah.
So my feed is full of like musicians that with music that I really like, DIYers, people, agents that are running good, positive businesses that I want to spend more time with, and really authentic people that are real. So when I say I get what you give, like social media is set up where they know what you're clicking on and you are seeing what you want to see. So I guess keep that in mind.
I try not to click on stuff. I'm like, I'm curious about this, but I don't want this to screw up my algorithm and start having Instagram start sending me X, Y, or Z that I'm like curious about.
Yep. So I think the bad rap is, just start removing and not following and maybe time blocking your time with social media.
We talk about time blocking a lot around here in the BPR experience because it's something that we all could be better with. One of the things that I really loved about when I started following you, long before you and I met for lunch, I like you and your dad do projects, right? I think I found that out like after you and I had lunch. But I love your porch, patio, outdoor space. It is like life-giving. I am a fellow, like I love to dig in the dirt and just putz around with all my plants. Like I love that. Like, did you always, is that something that you're like, okay, when I get on Instagram, like I'm going to start talking about this? Or was it just like, this is a part of me, so this is what I want to share?
It's definitely evolved, I guess. The DIY started with the purchase of the home that I have now.
Yeah.
And just like the slow steps of me kind of learning how to DIY a few projects, and also creating like a world where you can have like the $1 million home that's not $1 million. You can make that house your home by doing the work yourself. So I just kind of wanted to have a place where I was making mistakes and I wanted to teach others how not to, and what I was learning, and it's kind of grown into my little magnolia.
I love it. Oh, I forgot that. I knew your house had a name. Have you touched every square inch of your place?
Almost. I have one COVID project that I have not completed yet. So
you're like, and real estate is so busy. Yep. I don't have time to finish it.
The wet bar in the basement will be a 2024 completion.
Sweet.
Yes.
Are you going to document the whole thing start to finish?
It's half done.
Okay.
The documentation is there. It's just
Good.
I haven't posted it yet.
Good. Yeah, like your patio. I'm like, I want to come over and hang out on your patio. But what shows up on social media for me now that I know you in person, it like your home feels like a big warm hug, and like you feel like a big warm hug when I met you in person too. So I'm like, your house is like a perfect representation of you.
Oh, thank you. There is a piece of it that I want that feeling for all my guests in my home.
I love that.
And I've always wanted to create a home that I didn't want to leave. So
yeah,
I think in kind of just being intentional about my time this year and what I'm posting and spending time on posts, I think that's a big focus, is just how can we create homes and not just houses.
It totally is. It is the whole thing. It's what we do. One of the other things that connected me to you on social was your vulnerability and like your willingness to like be your true self on social media. You went through some hard stuff last year and it was really inspiring. I don't know why I'm crying. No. I've like, Ryan, have I cried on every podcast recently? Ryan's in here while we're recording. He's like, yep, you're like 5 for 5, Beth.
Means you're doing good work.
No, but like talk about that. Like you were like really open, really raw, like you went through some hard shit, and how did that all come to be, and what inspired you, and like how did it affect your brand? Are like people talking to you about that? Yeah,
I think I'm pretty fresh on like the authentic raw. Like it still feels like yesterday I posted something that
I loved your post yesterday, by the way, too.
Well, thank you.
That was a really beautiful post.
Thank you. I second guess posting some of it, still, and something that like I know is tough for some people to read, but also I think it's really necessary. And I guess I'll go back to my most favorite people that I do follow are really, really real and authentic, and I can feel their posts. And if there's anything that can come out of this unfortunate chapter or past chapter in my life, I hope to be helpful and the one reason why there maybe has been more than one post is the response from my village of even private messages or calls or texts or past people in my life that have contacted me to say, like, I needed to hear that, or I don't feel alone, has been really rewarding. And then also giving me the strength to keep healing and knowing this next chapter is going to be better. So
I love that.
Yeah. I do think, and more I've thought about it recently, is I'm guessing I'm scaring a few people away with some authentic posts. And I'm confidently knowing that I'm making more room for the people in my life that are supposed to be there. So,
oh, hell yeah. Your vibe's going to attract your tribe. And if somebody is turned off by you being vulnerable on social media, I feel like they are not your people.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think every day feeling more confident in that space.
Yeah.
So I also thank my village for giving me the confidence to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And it's sad when like you see somebody's social media feed and like everything looks wonderful and then all of a sudden they just fall off the grid, or they come back on and then they talk about their life being a train wreck and you're like, oh, so it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies all along. And like, I'm logical enough to know that life isn't like that. But it is really, it's almost more refreshing to see other people like talk about real life stuff and hard stuff. Because then you're like, oh yeah. I'm not alone.
Yeah. In reality, I felt like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I felt like there was rainbows and butterflies, and one day it felt like a fraud.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that person because I didn't know it was at the time. So the authentic post and the real post is like, I want to keep it real. I grew up in a very real family, and I don't want to, sweep everything under the rug. So.
I love that. Okay, we're going to pivot away and we're going to stop crying over here, Beth Randall. We're going to talk about one of your passion project, your new passion project. I'm sure you have a bunch because you're super creative. But the one that I learned about recently is like you're writing a children's book. Like, tell us all the things. Where did the inspiration come from? Tell me everything.
Yeah, this is the first time I am going to be vocalizing about it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so. This is really exciting, and it's been a very surreal 8 months putting this together. So I am writing a children's book, and I'm marketing it as a family book in children's book form, hoping that whomever is reading this book to a child can also step away with maybe the same information, same steps, closure that I'm hoping children can receive from the book. But it will potentially be a book. I'm hoping the next few months.
No, not potentially. It is a book.
It is a book. It's
just not available for purchase quite yet.
We're in the final steps. That will help families and especially children in the process of moving and get them excited for their next space. And I hope it can be a conversation piece to make sure that all family members are on the same page and make sure any questions are answered. And just give families the opportunity in a really stressful time to make sure that they're checking in and making that move a little less stressful.
Yeah, I think people completely take for granted. I think a lot of adults take for granted that moving can be a really big deal for kids.
Yeah.
And I love that you're writing a book, and I got a little sneak peek at the
illustrations.
The illustrations, yes, thank you. Words were escaping me. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to purchase a bunch of copies so I can give them to my clients when they're moving for their kids. Like, that's what I'm super excited about.
I'm super excited about that too.
It's gonna be super fun. Well, where do you see your business going in 2024? You got a bar to finish in your basement. You got a book to start selling like crazy. So, like, what else?
What else? I feel confident that we're going to have a good real estate year.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think anyone that thinks otherwise needs to get a grip on reality.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's not talk about inventory.
It's a whole nother podcast episode.
Yep. But with, interest rates dwindling down a little bit and the change in season, I'm confident that we're going to have a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I heard that you're a person that picks a word of the year also. I did it this year for my first year. Okay, what's your word?
Contentment.
Contentment. Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah.
I love that.
And what is yours?
Mine is abundance.
Abundance.
And then I talked about it on our goal and intention setting podcast, is that I kept on feeling like it's the first year I've ever done a word of the year. Christy is really good with doing the word of the year, and I'm usually like write the list of things and then check the things off the list. Mm-hmm. That's how I've kind of been programmed in life. Mm-hmm. And so the word just landed in my lap. And so I'm really excited about like abundance of everything, like business, personal life, travel, health, gym time, like abundance of all the things.
I feel like we have opposite.
Really?
Words.
And you're like,
I'm just going to take a step back.
But that's what's so cool about having a word, is that it's so personal to everybody and it can mean whatever you want it to mean. And
which is great and what we need for the year. So obviously everyone needs something different.
Well, and I'm looking forward to like seeing how mine pans out for my first year.
For sure.
We'll see. Okay, so I think I said it earlier, like Rosie works for Remax. I'm with EXP. What would you say to another realtor that's really stuck in scarcity and like they're afraid to build connections like outside of their brokerage? What would you say to that agent?
I'm going to go back to something I said earlier in the podcast, that you get what you give.
Yep.
And I think you could take that in real estate and in life, on social media, where your heart is. And if you're working with good intention and reaching out to people that, are doing good work. And if you're in real estate listening to this podcast, there's so many different cool branches in real estate that you can get involved in. Spend your time with something that you really enjoy around people that fill your cup, and I don't think the scarcity will be there.
Yeah.
So that would be my main thought, is like when your heart is in the right place, the right people will find you.
I fully agree. That is a good like little mic drop moment. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for having this conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So where can people find you? Where are you on the gram and all the things?
Yes. As noted, self-proclaimed as Rosie the Realtor.
Love it.
Yep. _MN for Minnesota on Instagram and on Facebook.
I love that. Yeah. So there's a Rosie the Realtor somewhere else that took it before you were able to get it?
Yes.
Oh, man. You got to get that trademarked.
Yeah. I can't. It has
Somebody
Realtor
already
in
done
it.
that? Oh, because there's Realtor in it.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Shh. Trademark people. Yeah. So Instagram and Facebook.
Love it. Well, until next time, bus bench babes, keep your face off a bus bench and keep being the badass boss babes that you are.
Okay, girls, are you feeling as inspired as we are? We're over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of the Girl, Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast.
If you want more, head over to girlgetyourfaceoffabusbench.com for show notes and more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. They mean the world to us, and they're what keep us going.
Girl, thanks for being here.